PC prices have already been bad this year, especially graphics cards, and all signs point to things getting worse with the new round of tariffs. We have Nintendo just announcing their Switch 2 pricing and then delaying pre-orders to figure out how they're going to adjust for this. Experts are split on exactly what it means, but a lot of them expect a price increase above the already criticized $450 price tag for the Switch 2. And PC hardware specifically, PC builders like Main Gear and Falcon Northwest are predicting prices to go up at least 20%, if not more, again, from the already not very good pricing. So how does a PC gamer navigate this situation? And my recommendation is a couple of things. One, focus on older games or find games that maybe you wouldn't have played otherwise that will run well and are great deals. This is similar to like the patient gamers approach. Maybe you've heard of this. It has its own, subreddit. The idea here is you don't have to play the latest game, and especially not on the highest graphics settings. Honestly, there's this fear of missing out in PC gaming, especially of like, oh no, I have to turn down a graphics setting, or oh no, I can't, my PC might not be ready for the latest and greatest feature. And honestly, chasing all of that is fun, but you don't have to, and you can have a lot of fun taking a different approach. And in fact, all of these stats say that the vast majority of PC gaming time is actually spent on older games. We have some data saying that from January 2024 to December 2024, by the way, all my sources will be linked in the video description today, 67% of player hours on PC were spent on a game that was 6 or more years old. A further 25% of player hours were spent on games that were 2 to 5 years old, and the remaining 8% of time was spent on games that are at least are less than 2 years old. Now, a bunch of this ends up showing that the majority of player hours are spent in older games, but they tend to be live service games, competitive multiplayer games. We're talking games like Counter-Strike, League of Legends, Roblox, Dota 2, Fortnite, etc. And I understand that while that is a very popular way to game on PC, it's not the only way to game on PC, and not everybody's drawn to the multiplayer titles. And since this is done by player hours, I also understand that the people are going back to play these in between playing some of the, AAA single-player stuff that does come out. But again, this is one way of thinking about PC gaming. If you spend most of your time playing, older esports titles, you might have the itch to upgrade your hardware, but you might not actually need to do so. Again, another place we can look at for what are people actually playing on PC is Steam database, where we can see the most popular games on Steam. And again, a bunch of them are things like Counter-Strike 2, Dota 2, PUBG. Schedule 1's a newer game, but if I haven't actually tested this out, but looking at the graphics on that, this certainly doesn't look like it requires a massive PC. Now then, but what about when those new big games do come out that are very demanding? We're talking like, here we have Monster Hunter Wilds. Here's the thing. Believe it or not, this is one of the top played games on the Steam Deck. Does it run well on the Steam Deck? No. There are mods that kind of improve things, but the point is, you can actually enjoy games at pretty low graphic settings if it's about the gameplay, okay? This game is not well optimized and it's not running well on a lot of PCs, but it is selling insane numbers on PC. And again, it's one of the top played games on the Steam Deck. Now, I have a video on this game and how unoptimized I would consider it to be, given the visuals you get for how far you have to turn down the graphic settings. That being said, you can turn down the graphic settings, and that's a big part of what I want to talk about today. So I did a recent video looking at the RTX 3060 up against an RTX 5090. Why was I doing that? Well, the main point of that video was that you can play games absolutely fine at absolutely reasonable visual quality and frame rates on an RTX 3060. You don't need to spend $4,000 on a graphics card. Do you get a better looking and performing experience on the $4,000 graphics card? Yeah, you absolutely do. But most games these days absolutely do retain their core visual design at decent frame rates at medium to low graphics settings. Now, this video focused on an RTX 3060, and that does have 12 gigabytes of VRAM, which helps, and it's a bit, but we could go more extreme than this. A little bit further back, I did a video about the RTX 2060, which is only a 6 gigabyte card. It's a lot weaker than a 3060. And I checked this out in some of the most graphically demanding games out there. And the thing is, if you adjust your expectations for what it can deliver, you can realistically still have a good time in the most demanding games out there. Unreal Engine 5 showcases like Hellblade 2, for example. Okay, even at low settings 1080p, you're not getting 60 FPS locked in this title. One option that I've learned from playing on my Steam Deck is that, quite frankly, locking to a consistent 40 FPS is a surprisingly okay experience. And I know from the PC gaming crowd, especially those of you with the high-end PCs in my comment section, you're gonna push back on this. But I will tell you, you can lock a game to 40 FPS and have an okay time. You will get used to it. Is it as great as playing at 200 FPS? Absolutely not. Can you still absolutely enjoy the game, and is it playable? Yes, it realistically is. And I know that's an unpopular thing to say to PC gamers, but it's the truth. You can play a game locked to 40 FPS, and it's fine. Now, if you must have 60 FPS, you also can use upscaling at 1080p. Do I recommend doing that? Well, if you need to get the frame rates you need, especially in the latest versions of DLSS, this can look okay. So Unreal Engine 5 showcase type game, medium to low settings, using DLSS quality, can get you 60 or 60 FPS plus, even on an RTX 2060, which is quite an old graphics card at this point, if we're being honest. Now, again, what about some of the most graphically demanding games out there? So I even tested out in something like Alan Wake 2. This is one of the most photorealistic, but also graphically demanding. This thing is hard on your hardware games out there. Again, if you're willing to reduce graphic settings and maybe even use DLSS at 1080p, you can get a passable looking game. Honestly, low settings these days in many of these big games are way better looking than you might think. It used to be the case that playing PC games at low settings turned off a lot of the basic elements of the game. Like you would get absolutely no shadows at all. Or, zero draw distance, there's fog everywhere, you can't see anything. That's just simply not the case now, and you can still retain a lot of the core visual elements of a game, often at the medium or low settings, and yes, you can use upscaling. Of course, you could spend more money and not have to do that, but realistically, you can enjoy these games. And again, if you're playing, competitive titles at low settings, you can often still get well over 100 FPS on a card like an RTX 2060, something like that. You don't need to be spending a crazy amount of money to just play games. Again, like I said, things like the Steam Deck, I think, really prove this. I actually play on my Steam Deck more than I play on my 5090 PC. Honestly, a lot of that's just the convenience. Like I can just pick it up and play it whenever, wherever, games suspend and resume. It's just very convenient. But the thing is, what I've found is there are games that are too big for the Steam Deck. That is true. But you can absolutely find games that run amazingly well on weaker hardware, like the Steam Deck or an older gaming PC. I spend a ton of time playing games like Hades. This is a absolutely phenomenal game, and it runs at a locked 90 FPS on my Steam Deck OLED, and it looks absolutely beautiful doing it. The graphic style here is gorgeous, but it's not shooting for photorealistic 3D, so it runs amazingly well. And the important thing is, the game is fun. This is an excellent video game. It's just fun. Another game that I spent a massive amount of time on is Slay the Spire. Now, I understand that, deck building card games are not gonna be absolutely everybody's, favorite style of game, but you might be surprised if you give it a shot. This game ends up being pretty addictive. I've convinced enough friends to play this that hadn't previously been into this style of game, and they end up having an absolute blast. Now again, I'm sure some people will bounce off of this, but again, overwhelmingly positive reviews have to mean something. And maybe, okay, hey, maybe Slay the Spire and Hades aren't your style of game, but the point is, one thing I've really found with gaming a lot on the Steam Deck is that, and I think this applies to older gaming PCs, is you can actually have a ton of fun with finding the right games for the system that you have. That can be its own little hobby in and of itself, is finding the gems of games that run well on older hardware, or just the older games, so they scale well now that they are newer. Again, that's kind of that patient gamer idea. A lot of times games are better optimized after years of patching, or just PC hardware has caught up to a point where you can max out older games and have them run super well. And the other advantage of this is the fun of deal hunting. Guys, deal hunting is fun, and this is one of the coolest things about Steam, for example. Like, I'm just gonna pop into Steam today and just click on specials, and let's see what we actually get. I actually haven't looked at this, but okay, you can get Red Dead Redemption 2, one of the greatest games of all time, for $15 right now. That is absolutely insane. And speaking of games that were incredibly difficult to run when they came out, but PC hardware has caught up, this game actually runs okay on a Steam Deck at 30 FPS. This game runs okay on a GTX 1060. You can play at optimized settings getting around 60 FPS on a GTX 1060. Cards newer than that, like a 2060 or a 3060, especially now that we have DLSS in this game, which took years to get in there, you can get a very surprisingly good experience that looks stunning in an amazing game for $15 right now. Well, let's see what else is on sale right now. Looks like all the Devil May Cry games. Devil May Cry 5 for $7.50. The Devil May Cry HD collection. Oh, so you want to go back to like Devil May Cry 1, 2, and 3? All of them combined for less than $10. There's some really good stuff here. Cult of the Lamb for $12.50, Devil May Cry 4 for $7.50. And again, it varies day by day, but the one thing that is consistent is Steam has some amazing sales on older games, sometimes newer games. Oftentimes these are games that will still hold up incredibly well, and you'll get an amazing deal on it. Again, this is that patient gamer idea. Hardware will catch up with the games, and games will go on sale, and by the time they go on sale and hardware has caught up, generally all of the unoptimized launch state of games, so those bugs, those patches, have generally launched, or if the game developers never fix them, a lot of times there's community-made mods out by this point in time that do fix them, or add tons of content and all of that. So again, what even is the point of my video today? The general point of the video is that yes, new PC hardware and even consoles and all of that is in a dark place right now, and it's probably going to get worse. Some of you have the expendable income where you can just power through that, and that's fine, and that's okay. You can do that. But if you aren't there, or don't want to spend that much money even if you have it because it just feels bad, I would like you to switch over from maybe thinking about the fear of missing out on the latest AAA games played at the latest graphics settings, and instead think about how much fun you can have literally finding like optimized graphics settings for older hardware to play the newest games, because honestly, there's a lot of resources on that and you can have a surprisingly good time, and it's kind of fun. Squeezing the most out of older hardware can actually be a really good time, a hobby in and of itself, or that deal hunting of those older amazing games for awesome prices that run awesome now when they may have been hard to run at launch, again, can be a ton of fun. So that's what this video is about. Don't have that fear of missing out on the latest stuff. You can have a great time playing on older systems at reduced graphic settings. Don't be afraid to reduce graphic settings. Oftentimes they still look great. Or if the game itself is fun, the graphics can still hold up well enough to enjoy the actual gameplay. So that's the point of today's video. Again, if you have the money for the 5090, you get better graphics. Doesn't necessarily make the game itself literally any better though. And if you can capture the overall look and feel of the game and you're getting sucked into that game, you can do it on affordable hardware or just without upgrading. Like I said, I play a ton on the Steam Deck and yeah, it limits the game selection, but it also opens up its own opportunity to find hidden gems that you wouldn't have otherwise played because you're looking for the best stuff that fits what you have. There's tens of thousands of PC games out there, and thousands of them are amazing and can run on whatever system you have. I hope all of you have an excellent day.